Okay. So today we are going to study gender and age. Anyone who wants to add to this topic, if they have read this chapter? Yes, anyone?
No, ma'am. We have a lot of work to do in this week. That's why we didn't read that.
That's bad. Okay. So when we talk about sociolinguistics, and within sociolinguistics when we talk about gender, so this is the very first thing that we differentiate, and we differentiate between gender and sex. Gender is a term which is more used for a social role, and whereas sex is a term which is used for biological reasons. So maybe in medical sciences they'd use that word, but they won't use gender. However, with the passage of time, you might see a change occurring, that nowadays people are using this word gender more in the places where the term sex was used. The reason is due to the inappropriateness of, or linking the word with inappropriateness of its meaning. And this is very common when it comes to here in our countries, in Muslim countries especially. So this is also a sociolinguistic factor, that is, we cannot use certain words in front of our elders, or we cannot use certain words because or we try to use neutral words instead of some words, because we believe that they are more marked words, in a sense that they seem like more harsh, or more offensive to, might sound more offensive to the person to whom with whom we are interacting. And that is why we overlap, just like the word gay. Like, no one uses this word nowadays because its meaning is now associated with something which is related to transgender and all that. So with this, we can say that the kind of words that we are using in a society, and the way we interact in a society, this is also research that you can do. It's a good topic. Not just the same words, because research is already done on these words, but you can go for words in your own language, that is Pashto or Urdu or any other. I hope this point is clear, that we are actually concerned with gender here. But this difference comes in relation to who you are, or the uh, the gender you are born with, that is, whether you are a male or whether you are a female, and then you learn with the passage of time how you interact in a society, and what are the appropriate sociocultural behavior for a specific gender. And within that gender, then we are only uh, uh, going to study about language. That is because we are concerned with language over here, so we are only going to study about language, rather than other other things, of which gender studies is something which can be studied in sociology. So once again, I'll come to this a point, that when you are choosing your research topics, you have to be very careful, not only in this like in not only in this class, but also when you're choosing your topics for MS thesis. You have to be careful, because you should not go for any topic which is related to sociology, but it has a link with social with sociolinguistics. Means it's dealing with language, and not with sociology or gender studies. Okay. There are certain things that we're going to study in relevance to gender and age. when it comes to gender, we'd say that gender exclusive speech differences, they are high in how they work in highly structured communities. Now, what are highly structured communities? In highly structured communities, there are specific words or languages with or features of languages which they use when they are communicating as a female or communicating as a male to someone else being male or someone else being female. Now, this shows that these communities are highly structured communities. So if you read this example of Thayana, who is an Amazonian Indian woman from the Northwest Amazon basin, she lives with her husband and children and a number of other families in a long a house beside the river. The language of her longhouse is Toyuka, which is the language of all men in this tribe. So this is one highly structured community, that is highly structured language, which is only associated with one gender, that is male. um Male uses a, a different language, and females are going to use different language, and the language she uses to talk to her children. Then this there is this one another restriction, or you can say is a structured language, and it is exclusively when females are communicating to children. She comes from a different tribe, and her first language is Desano. She uses Desano to her husband, and he replies in Tiyuka. So these are highly structured communities in which they have specified language features for men, as well as for for males as well as for females, and also for children. And there are even communities in which linguistic features, not just language, the way language is used, but other linguistic features are completely different when it comes to communicating with male or communicating with female. So if you look at this example, that in Montana, the pronunciation, which is, there's pronunciation difference in American Indian tribe. There is an American Indian tribe, and in that tribe, if women is using a word for bread, they are going to use it different from the way men are going to use it. So in these communities, they are so they have strict boundaries for the genders, that they are there are different words that are used by a female, and different words that are used by um, males. So, and other examples are also given over here, that is word shape in other languages contrast because women and men use different affixes. And there are some North American Indian languages where men and women use different affixes. So for example, if we say unlike for men, so they'll be using some in like for females would be using in, like means that even their affixes are different, and this is what determines them as male and as females in the society, because that's the appropriate form of the language that they can use in their community. And there are other examples which are given, that sometimes it's like for male and for females there are different forms of the language that they use, and sometimes those forms are used for the formal style or the polite one. And because women are considered women are thought to be more polite, and that is why women are uh, those languages or those features are strictly associated with females. So, and if the female is not using that kind of language, then it is considered bad or inappropriate for a female. So uh, it there are certain features in Japanese where females use some prefixes, and that is considered as a marker of being polite, or is associated with the formal style. These all these examples which are given over here, all these examples are for or are of the communities where there is this strict boundaries, and these strict boundaries are either gender based or are age restricted. So in when you are performing certain gender roles, or when you're acting as a male or acting as a female in a society, because in the gender you are born, you learn things related to that, or acquire things related to that gender. So if you're born as a female, or if you're born as a male, you know, with the passage of time, and you learn in your society, which we call as acculturation. This terminology is called acculturation. Acculturation can not necessarily be only associated with gender, but it's associated with any language feature that is learned within that culture, which is appropriate, which is not appropriate. So when you acquire that those features, and you know that this feature solely belongs to a female and solely belongs to male, this is something that you acquire or learn with the passage of time. And um, also, when we see that children, they are using this language, which is um, uh, which is associated with like they have to give respect to elders, and they cannot say, even in Urdu they cannot say tum to elders. But these are the things that you learn with the passage of time in a society. Now in many especially in Japanese, there's this why females are more asked to use formal conversation rather than informal, and their language is more inclined towards the formal conversation and not towards the informal conversation. The reason is that they are communicating with the children at home, and that is the reason that females have to use this formal language and formal forms of the language. And the reason is that they are uh, they have to teach their children how to communicate properly in the formal way. Are you there or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
let me give you an example here, though it's funny, but I hope everyone understands Pashto here. If not, then I will translate it. But um you might have
Yes,
heard this
ma'am.
females normally say in our society, they don't call the names of their husbands, and they say the falane plara, the name of the child, and then they um, call uh, you know means that um, falane ke abba, something like that.
The Dweeplar.
Yes. So something which is very common in our culture, and you might not find it in other places, but it's very common in our culture. And why is it common in our culture? Because it's associated with oh, wait, who's waiting in the group? Okay, Fahim. So it's associated with our culture, and then we have defined these roles. But if you see, then there is this gradual change occurring in from that old times to now. It means that these gender roles, or these gender specific or these gender, the language which is associated with genders may change with the passage of time, depending on how the society is changing. So if you look at the same example, you won't find it. Whose mic is on? Please switch it off. And you won't find it nowadays, though you find it, but it would be not in city areas. You'd see that nowadays females even call their husbands with their names, and even males majority of the time call their majority of the times call their wives with the names as well. So this has changed with the passage of time, and it's changing more and more. And probably there will be a time when this concept of falane plar would be gone. I hope you're getting, and you can link and find topics for your study in your society like this, though there are other examples,
Yes, ma'am.
but I wanted to give this example to you. Okay. So then we have gender preferential speech features, which is a social within the social dialect research. Now, we have already talked about strict communities where the whole community has, like they have these boundaries for women, that this is the language that they're going to speak, or this is like they are very strict boundaries. And so is the, like, some societies are like that. And in those societies and in those communities, I would say Pakistan is one of them as well. I mean, Pashto community, or Hinko speaking community, and these communities over here are like that, where we have strict boundaries of how females should communicate and how males should communicate. Like, for example, a male can very easily use swear words, but a female uses swear words, we'd instantly say that ladkiyan gaaliyan nahi deti, right? This is something that is common in our culture, in our society. So we also have somehow strict boundaries for male and females use of language, which can be linked to marginalization as well. But that would come under other study, but you can use it as an example. um, though your major focus when conducting research in sociolinguistics should solely be language and society, but as a part of the society, you can use marginalization as one of the factors which is responsible for this difference in the language of male and female. Okay, then as we were talking about gender preferential speech features, so if you read this example, you'll be clear that Keith was a 7-year-old Canadian from Vancouver whose parents were working for 6 months in the city of Leeds in Yorkshire, England. He had been enrolled in at the local school, and after his first day, Keith came home very confused. "What's your teacher's name?" asked his father. "She says she's Mrs. Hall," said Keith. "But when the boys call her Maisel, she still answers them, and the girls sometimes call her Mrs. Hall and sometimes Maisel. It sounds very funny." Now, if you look at this example, you'll see that there are some features of, just calling a person with the name which is different in different communities and in different social dialects as well. Why do we talk about social dialects? Because these features are associated with the regions you are in. So, for example, when we are here in Pakistan, I would give you a very simple example that when I'm writing an email uh, to my male colleagues, I I'm hesitant to say dear and then write their name. When uh, males are writing an email to a female, they don't hesitate while writing dear, because now this concept of respected and respectfully and venerated and all that concept is gone, and we try to write dear for even informal emails. So writing dear, and after that, like I'm never hesitant to write dear for any female. But I'm also hesitant to write it for my seniors as well. So, for example, if I'm addressing Ma'am Humaira, I would be a little reluctant to write Dear Dr. Humaira. Now, these are certain features which are associated with ours, which have association with our society and the way our society works, because we believe that elders should be given respect, and dear is a word that you cannot call to your to your elders, like just like that. And similarly to to the males as well, so we are a bit reluctant. However, it is completely different in other societies. Like you all uh, call me as ma'am, right? Or I call my teachers as sir. We never call them with their names or with their surnames. So for example, if someone calls me as Miss Khalil, a foreigner would be fine with that. Someone in England, someone in Australia would be okay with calling me as Miss Khalil. um, but um, but someone over here would be reluctant to call me with this name, because this is how our society works. And it is evident in our second language as well. Means we have adapted our second language features, uh, the way our society works. So these are certain features that are associated and are associated with the social dialect, and we follow them, which are gender based. And like no one would or people would be reluctant to call me with my name, that is with Uzma. Even my students would be reluctant to call me with my name. Well, the reason is that this is how it works in our society, and it works different for the male as well as for the female. I hope you're getting this point.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can we say that our society is highly structured society in terms of
Yes.
gender?
Yes, our society is very structured society, highly structured. See, the last point that we discussed was about communities, right? And the way communities work. Now, here we are actually talking about the language in itself, means we are talking about the dialects. So, um, one feature is that when you are conducting your research, you have to be clear that whether you are focusing on the community and then linking it with the language, or whether you are focusing on the language and then linking it with the community. You have to be clear when you are conducting your research in that. And yes, our societies are very structured societies, but not more structured than these American tribes, Afro-American tribes, where they have completely different languages and language features for males and females. We are at least better than them. Okay, Claire, should we go ahead? Should we go ahead? Is it clear so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Coming towards gender and social class, very interesting feature when we discuss gender. Um, Now, why is it interesting? Can anyone tell me that this is there is this perception that females are more likely to go towards standard as compared to males, because males are more what is in the chat? Who cannot hear me? Sabina, what's wrong? Sabina, what's wrong? I mean, yeah, it's fine here. I can see your mic here. Switch on and switch off. Can anyone please tell Sabina to switch on and switch off her mic once again? Maybe she'd be able to hear me. All of you can hear me, or is there a problem? Can all of you
We
hear
can.
me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Please
Yes,
help.
ma'am.
Please help Sabina. I don't know. She's having some problem. Okay. So what was I discussing? Yes, I was discussing about gender and social class. So when like females are more prone towards, or female are more inclined towards standard language as compared to males. How many of you agree and how many of you disagree? How many of you disagree and how many of you agree? And why?
I agree.
Agree? Who agrees?
Because in
Mhm.
Larab,
Okay, Lara.
because in our society, women are expected to be more polite in
Mm.
their speech as compared
Yes.
to men.
Yes. Anyone else? Anyone else? No?
Ma'am, I do agree too.
Yes. Yes, Afshin.
Ma'am, actually, I do agree that the females are much more prone towards the status of language because, in my opinion, they are actually the models of the kids.
Mm.
So why they use the correct behavior in the community as to present the role model for the kids too.
Yes.
The females are much more prone towards the status of the language than man.
Everyone is talking about females, but no one is talking about males. Why males are, more inclined towards using informal language? Why? Can anyone answer me?
Because men are not judged quickly, just like female.
Men are not judged. Okay. Why are men in this class sleeping?
Ma'am, may I answer?
Yes, please.
Ma'am, actually, male are associated with the toughness of their physical appearance,
Hmm.
in my opinion. In my opinion, I don't know whether it's correct or not. So that's why they use much more easy language, but vernacular language in the society, and they can use the swear words easily rather than the females because of their toughness in the physical attitude. I don't know
Yes.
whether it's my
It's
opinion.
correct. Yes, it's correct.
Like the society we are living in and the society we are dealing in, like I'm working in an army personal area, so
Hmm.
I see the army people like this, like they are very prone towards the swear words. They can easily, while talking with the teacher, they can easily use out these kind of words while their communication with the teacher, but we can't use those.
Yes. Yes. Correct. Okay. Switch off your mics so that the distortion is, gone. Okay. Um, why we associate gender and a social class, and then analyze the language, uh, the use of language, because when we talk about social class, so we know that overall in social class, we know that higher social class use very formal language as compared to the lower class. This is a fact that everyone knows, and even research has proved it. But when we look at the differences of each social class, and if you can see this bar chart, you'll see that in each we have this use of men and female use of the language. But in the social classes, in different social classes, when we look at different social classes, in the low in the social class, even where we have, let's suppose we take we divide social classes based on, five groups. And in higher social class, in higher, lower, or middle, and then the division, all the division. And when we take data from them, we see that in there is a gradual difference in using the standard form of the language or the formal form of the language in the lower social classes. But when we look at the same social class, and we look at the difference between the male's language and the female's language, we'll see that there is females are using more formal language in the same social class as compared to the males of that social class. And the reason which is given to the reason which is responsible for that is that males are considered, males are considered to be tough. Males are considered to be, someone who's not scared of the society, someone who breaks the rule. And in order to prove that, they are they use this informal language, or not the standard language. So for example, this use of in is the vernacular form, that is, when you say speaking, and this last ing is not pronounced, it's vernacular form, I mean it is pronounced as speaking. So then we see that when, because it's a vernacular form and it is mostly used by males as compared to the um, um, females. This shows that uh, when it comes to gender and social class, though, in social class, we know that there is this difference of in each social class there is this difference um, of a standard form of the language and vernacular form of the language. But if you look at the same social class, then females or the women's use of standard language is more as compared to the males in the same social class. Claire?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what is the reason, and why do we say that women use a standard form of the language? Their linguistic behavior, there are some reasons for that. And what are those reasons? The first reason is the social status explanation, which I have already discussed over here, that females are, because they are conscious of the social status. Females are very conscious of the social status, and you'll see that they change their language instantly when they are outside their homes, or where there is there's a person who's not the part of their everyday group that is at home. And the way they communicate is is associated with status. That is, they'll be using a very standard form of the language. And even if you look at our society, this is very common here as well, that when we are outside or when we are somewhere else, instantly the females are going to start communicating with their kids in English, though they have never communicated with them in English when they are at home. But they would start communicating with them in English, and they would use or merge different words of English, because we associate English as something which is standard over here. And that is why, and something which is formal, and that is why we add this English words to our conversation, as compared to, more often as compared to, when we are at home. And same is the case, but this is not completely the case with males. If you compare this with males, they won't do that. They would try to stick to their own um, language, the way they communicate with the kids at their home. Females are more conscious of the status, social status, and that is why they try to portray their high status with this by using, standard form of the language, or by using this um, not just standard form of the language, but also the form which is used by the high class. Oh, there is another feature as well, and that is that studies show that some working women who works in, maybe in schools or different places, they won't be using the standard form as compared to, other females who are of the same social class. So for example, if overall there is this difference of the social class and the use of language, right, in the society. So higher class, middle class, and lower class, all these three use different language when it comes to when it comes to formal and informal and standard, and all those features. But then there's this in each status, there is this difference of male and female use of the language, and that is females are using more standard language as compared to male in the lower class. Similarly, females are using more standard language as compared to the males in the middle class, and also with, in the higher. But then comparing the same features of the language of in the higher class, the features of the language of the females who are using who are working ladies and who are not working ladies, or in the lower class who are working ladies and who are not working ladies, and similarly, in the middle class as well, and in other social status, if there are any that you are analyzing in a study. If it was seen, if it was studied that working women of the same class were using fewer standard forms from the women who were working at home, who were, you know um, who were at home. These are the things which show that we have, this I'm left with 1 minute over here in this session. Please rejoin through the same link, okay? So this shows that females try to gain this power. Working women are already powerful in this sense, but females at home, they try to take their powers and show their power through the use of standard form of the language. So this is, a psychological aspect when it comes to using the standard language and, the other form of the language, and how the language of the females in the same group differs as, a working class, and as someone who works, who's at home, homemakers, we'll say. So this is one reason for which